The Federal Reserve exists to support the elite in the attempt to overthrow humanity. They have control of institutions globally, as we saw during the financial crisis, giving backdoor money to the tune of at least $16 trillion. The question I keep asking, and those at the Fed have never been able to answer, is how can the balance sheet be reduced without causing the global economic collapse? You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today, we are going to look at the Federal Reserve, we're going to look at the GDP, and more. Let's begin. This is the Federal Reserve's balance sheet. This monstrosity has grown into the trillions of dollars. But we have seen the Federal Reserve up on the screen, in the articles, in their meetings, talking about normalization, reducing their balance sheet. Instead, we see that over the past 2 months, they have increased. In October, they increased to the tune of over $5 billion worth. It's not an insignificant amount. They want to keep the status quo. They want to make sure the markets maintain their stability and their extremely low volatility. We can see that the Federal Reserve is just waiting. The question I have is, how long can we wait? This has been going on now, coming soon to 10 years. They've been claiming to support this economy, support the stock markets, and what has happened ever since? We have seen stocks rise directly in proportion to the G3 central bank balance sheet. We know that. And yet, they cannot pull back on their balance sheet without causing a crisis. Everybody knows that. As soon as this balance sheet gets reversed, we're going to have to see other central banks step in, or else stocks will decline. If other central banks stop printing as well, and they reduce their balance sheets, we're going to see stocks come down. There's no other way to put it. Look at this. Historically, October is the most volatile month for the S&P 500. You can see that here. Then you look at what we saw during 2017. Quite different. Look at this. This right now, as we just passed in October, is the least volatile month in history. That's something to say. We should be worried about what's going on behind the scenes. It's not normal. It's really abnormal to see this kind of activity going on when we see all that turmoil that's taking place in the news. There's no way that this can be a normal setting. Okay, you should have days of volatility, not every day. This is something that, of course, is volatile. It moves up and down. It doesn't just continuously move down and down and down. Why has this happened? Well, the market believes that the Federal Reserve will step in should there be any problems. And perhaps they will. But what's different about this moment than around the financial crisis moment, when we did see volatility on the way up? You know, the last time it moved in this territory, we experienced the subprime crisis, the financial crisis. And what is it this time? What will be that crisis? Well, I think that what we can experience here is simple fundamental analysis. Central banks printed money, bought shares, stocks go up. If they reduce their balance sheet, that means they have to get rid of some of their assets. Those assets will, of course, result in lowering of the stock market prices, and that causes a snowball effect. There's nothing ingenious about that. There's nothing of a crystal ball. That's just the way it works. I've tracked it. Central banks bought the shares, stocks go up. If they reduce it, obviously it's going to make stocks go down. But apparently that's weird and that's wrong. It's just strange. Look at the GDP. One of the most manipulated statistics. And we know which direction it has been manipulated. 4.5%. That's where they are predicting this to go. FRB Atlanta. You can see that. The GDP Now statistic. Look at this. Projected to go to 4.5%. I don't know where they intend on getting this growth from. But every time I see these statistics showing this great jobs numbers and the economy is doing great and the consumer confidence is doing great, it's not even funny anymore. It's sad that people believe it. It's really sad. Year after year after year, the same numbers are coming out. And if you were to total up all the jobs numbers, there would be billions of people that exist in the US. That's how ridiculous these jobs numbers are. They just say, okay, we added 200,000, we added 400,000, we added 500,000. Every month they're adding all of these jobs. And if you total them up, it would be the most insane number. No, they're temporary workers. They get jobs this month and then they get jobs next month because they've been laid off in between. That's the way it works. Don't be fooled by those stats. You need to understand that. All right. Trump to tap Jerome Powell as the next Fed chairman. Who is Jerome Powell? Well, he's a continuation of Janet Yellen. He's a continuation of Ben Bernanke, and expect more of the same. The chairman is just one of many, even when you look at it on their own level. The chairman is not the whole committee that votes. There's a whole committee. The chairman is just one person. So remember that. And then you look deeper, of course, there's much more going on. Banks and hedge funds that rely on artificial intelligence threaten to inject risks into the financial system that could exacerbate a future crisis. That's according to global regulators. The financial industry's rush to adopt AI raises the potential that firms will become overly dependent on technologies that herd them toward the same view of risks and could amplify financial shocks. Is this article written by the Money GPS? It's out of Bloomberg. Sounds exactly like what I've been saying. And believe it or not, this includes people from the Fed and the ECB. AI and machine learning applications show substantial promise if their specific risks are properly managed. That's right. Of course. Taken as a group, universal banks' vulnerability to systemic shocks may grow if they are increasingly depend on similar algorithms or data streams. That's what I've been telling you all this time. And now in 2017, they're telling you that. All the algorithms are programmed exactly the same. That's what makes stocks rise. That's what makes stocks fall in these almost flash crash type events. You see these stocks just in an instant, they drop down. And that's not one person selling. That's all these computer algorithms triggering within these nanosecond time frames of each other. And you'll just see things drop off a cliff. That's not natural. That didn't happen 20 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago. These things didn't happen like that. There was some human involvement. There were actual people deciding if these should come down, if they should go up. This is going to be very, very destructive, okay? And of course, we'll see that in the next crisis. Bahrain has asked the Gulf allies for financial assistance as it seeks to replenish its foreign exchange reserves and avert a currency devaluation that could reverberate across the region. I think that this is one of many countries which is undergoing financial stress at this time. You'll see that not just with this country, but with others as well. They've got this dollar peg and they are entering into crisis mode. They're claiming that, of course, oil being subdued, they can't last any longer. They need some money. They want more money. So what's going to happen? Whenever I see a country in crisis, whenever it's the IMF or a coalition of different countries, they come together, they oftentimes eviscerate the sovereignty of that particular country. They say, look, you got a lot of debt here, you got a lot of this there, you're going to have to reduce this or reduce that, cut back on this or that. And as a result, we'll give you this money. What is the money for? Well, oftentimes it's to replenish the banking system. The financial system, not the people, not the actual individuals who are suffering every day. It is simply to keep the financial system going. Any of these countries can avert a crisis. They just have to beg. They just have to give up their sovereignty and allow other countries, Greece, for example, to have control over their own decisions. It's pretty amazing to see it all happen. Doesn't matter what region of the world. It all seems to be the same. If you found the video informative, please give me a thumbs up. And if you found this video informative, I know you'll find my books, The Money GPS and my newer release, Global Economic Collapse, even more informative. You can flip through these books. If you go over to Amazon, they have a look inside feature, which will allow you to flip through the pages of these books to see if you like them. Take care.